Welcome back to Tournament Tactics, Saturday only edition. We have Saturday football, a two-game slate. We love a two-gamer.
Yes.
Beautiful two-game slate. We're treating this as Eagles at the Commanders, 44.5 pointer. Big team total for the Eagles there. Not so great for Washington, 19 points. And then the next game, BobbyWow, your beloved Bears at home taking on the Packers, 46.5 pointer for that one. There we go. Christmas season, four quarterbacks, two-game slate. Should be a lot of fun. Let's take a look at, let's first, kind of take a look at ownerships, and then we'll get a look at each team. We'll go through the matchups.
Let's do it.
Fair. All right. So quarterback group, it looks like Hurts is, a lot of love for Hurts here. We're actually projecting him to be 50% owned in this one, which is a lot.
Understandable.
Projects much better than the other three, obviously, and but you're also paying the price. You're paying the price.
Yes. And
realistically, Hurts hasn't been like a 30-point guy this year at all. So
yeah, but let's keep in mind too, you don't need 30 points necessarily on a two-gamer, right? It's different.
You need to outscore Jolo, Caleb, and Mariota, though.
Yeah,
you definitely need to do that for that price. So interesting ownerships here. It looks like Hurts the top dog. Jordan Love will get some exposure as well. And then Caleb and Mariota kind of, Caleb and Jolo kind of the same. And then Mariota bringing up the rear. Running back group for this one, also sorted by ownership. Looks like, these numbers are crazy. 80% Barkley, 73% Jacobs. Why? Because, Swift and Monungai and Chris Rodriguez are the other three options. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
There's leverage to be had there. Again, craziness here. A.J. Brown, 70%. Devontae, 52% ownership. Then you've got McLaurin. DJ Moore popping in there. Luther is burdened by what had been last week because he's out this week.
Rome and Burden are both out.
Yeah, so it's the DJ Moore show. But we'll see who else. Olamide. We got some other names in there that we're going to be able to have to figure out for that team. Christian Watson, Q-tag. We'll see if he plays.
He's going to play. Christian Watson will play.
You think Christian Watson's playing?
He's going to play.
All right, I like it. Injury-prone guy.
It's been confirmed, I believe. He's good to go.
All right, that's big. That's actually a big, important item for this particular slate. Tight end group, Goddard and Loveland both getting a lot of love, so to speak, with Kmet and Musgrave bringing up the rear. And then finally, you've got Eagles defense as the primary one that everybody's using. All right, BobbyWow. It seems pretty obvious how the field sees the slate going. They want to play some Hurts. They want to play Eagles defense. They want to play Goddard. A.J. Brown. It's too many pieces. There's no way that all hits.
Can't play all Philly players in the lineup.
Yeah, too many pieces. No way that hits. So I do think there's some edge to be had here against those ownerships, but ownership was critical. By the way, everybody, we will be back today at 5 o'clock for the main tournament tactics, looking at the Sunday main slate. So we are exclusively looking at Saturday only, two-game slate. We'll talk about a domination station setup at the end of this as well. So we'll get you fully ready to go for Sunday, for the Saturday only. Luther burdened. Burdened by what had been last week. He's not playing. All right, so let's get into it. Let's take a look at how these teams have been going on Washington's side. BobbyWow, Mariota at the quarterback position at this point.
Yep.
Now, last week, Chris Rodriguez was out, and Bill Merritt Jr. came in and played a lot of it, but Jeremy McNuckles was there for 50% of the snaps as well. I think Bill scored a touchdown last week.
Bill looked good. Yeah, Bill looked good last week, but Rodriguez back in there muddies things up even more.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say about this is, as you watch Eagles games, they're much better attacked via the run than via the pass all season long. But these running backs are, no offense, not good. And there's 2 of them now splitting it. So kind of makes it an ugly situation.
Yeah. And based on the props, it looks like the expectation is Rodriguez is kind of slot back into that quasi RB1 role, which makes it even uglier. I was hoping maybe since Bill looked good, that might be able to get, take a couple sneaky shots at him. Maybe they ride it out with him the rest of the season, the young guy, see what they got, but there's no indication that that's the case. So
yeah,
gross.
Yeah, absolutely. A bad scene. I get why no one wants to hold any of these. McKnuckles might be the best of them. Catch-up mode. I'm telling you, do not sleep on McKnuckles in catch-up mode. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. On a slate without running back firepower at all, a player like McKnuckles can win the whole damn thing.
And we may not need to go there, right? But yes, I think that's a good call out.
Yeah. Tight end position, the loss of Zach Ertz has kind of thrust some new names into the conversation. Last week, it was John Bates getting 70% of the touches, and Ben Sinnott, who I think scored a touchdown last week as well, 60%. Neither one of them is being targeted heavily. Mariota doesn't actually throw that many passes anyway in games that he's in. But, Sinnott and John Bates in there. And then at wide receiver for the Commanders, McLaurin, primary guy. Deebo Samuel got a bunch of targets last week. And it looks like they're mixing in Jalen Lane and Treylon Burks as their turds.
Yeah. Yep. No, I don't think Sinnott caught a touchdown. But he is, to me, he's the more intriguing of the 2 tight ends. Yeah. If you're going to roster one from Washington, he's the intriguing one.
Yeah. And then again, Jalen Lane and Treylon Burks represent kind of turds on this slate. We all saw Treylon Burks kind of suck for 3 years of his career, but we also saw him make an Odell Beckham Jr. reception a couple of weeks ago. And there's a reminder that in a 2-game slate, shit like that could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Eagles side. Eagles, what we always love about the Eagles is there's no mystery. I already know what I'm going to see on the screen here. It's always the same. Barkley plays all the running back snaps. For the most, actually, Bigsby got in there a little bit, but Barkley gets all the meaningful work at running back.
The only thing to note here is you may see some blowout run numbers that you wouldn't normally see just because they smack down the Raiders. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, well, that's why Bigsby was in there late in that game. Even Hurts wasn't in there the whole time, but it's Hurts, it's Barkley, Goddard just operating almost exclusively at the tight end position. Last week, spike in targets for Goddard, and Washington is not very good versus tight ends. And then Brown and Smith primarily handling all of the passing game work, with the occasional miracle target to Jahan Dotson, and that's about it. Again, the Darius Cooper thing, I believe, happened last week in garbage time.
Yes.
So I would not look to that any bit. So we already know these teams. We already know. We already know what to do with the Eagles and who they're going to go to and where they're throwing it. All right. Shift gears. Chicago, Green Bay. Let's take a look at the Chicago side here. And again, I just love this tool because it just gives us snap counts and understanding of what the teams are doing week to week with these players. And of course, the big question is Swift, Monangai, who's the leader, who's the follower, what's going on with these two? And the split is very aggressive. We got 56-42 on snap counts last week. Same. It's pretty much that for the season at this point. It's pretty much that with the rushing. So basically expect both of these guys to almost equally share carries, even at the goal line. Swift gets his chances. Monangai gets his chances. It is not pretty here. But I actually think we're going to need to be aware of these guys and consider them in our lineups. It's 100%. Annoying, but you got to do it.
Well, just for perspective here, Monangai is only $500 more than Jeremy McNichols. So when you look at it that way, yes, definitely need to consider these guys.
Yeah. Shifting gears, Colston Loveland's a popular pick. Everybody loves Colston Loveland. We saw the ownership spike on Colston Loveland, 42% projected ownership. But realistically, and while he is the better, more let's call it dynamic player compared to Cole Kmet's still out there doing his thing.
Yeah, we got kind of a good example of what we might see tomorrow in the Bears game based on what the Rams did. The Bears are missing a couple of their wide receivers. Rome and Luther are out. They already run a ton of 2 tight end sets. I think we see an even heavier dose of Loveland and Kmet.
Yes.
Kmet always live for a touchdown as well. So I think both these guys are extremely live tomorrow. Especially Kmet is more of like a GPP punt pivot.
I think the reason that the field is all over Loveland is exactly that as well. They're kind of looking at him as like maybe the WR1 at this point. DJ Moore hasn't really been like a WR1 level player for them. He's more been kind of a WR2 even kind of guy. And then you have Olamide, who's super cheap, but going to be in the game and getting all the snaps as well. You see here, they don't even have anybody else to really work in. Devin Duvernay, he's not anything, he's not an unknown entity. He's been around for a long time. Nothing.
It will be him though. He'll be the primary WR3. They trust him, and I think he'll be the guy that's rotating in there. WR3, which again, it's like a 50% snap share role at best. So,
and probably less than that, right?
Probably less.
I think we're very likely to see 2 tight ends on the field for most of the game, with Loveland almost operating as a wide receiver in a lot of these opportunities, and then Cole Kmet getting his as well. So, gives us kind of an idea of this team. Yes, some of the chat is asking. Swift has a Q tag on him. Any news on that? Any concerns?
Yeah, he's kind of had a nagging groin injury over the last, I don't know, probably several weeks at this point. My guess is he plays. He's suited up. I think he's going to suit up. If not, obviously Manungai a smash play, but I think Swift's going to play, and I think both Swift and Manungai are solid options here, especially without Micah Parsons.
Yeah, neither one of these guys is ignorable. Again, you start to look at the choices, and you really start to get the idea. Like, all right, am I going to pay up for Barkley and Jacobs and just do chalk, or is there some other creative way to deal with the running backs? Not assuming that Barkley and Jacobs will both smash. That being said, Barkley and Jacobs obviously much better plays on paper. Like
maybe
if this is my season long, well, let me put it like this. If this is my season long fantasy league, I'm not considering Swift above Barkley or Jacobs. Like he would come next.
Yeah, so, that's a fair way to put it.
Yeah, just like, of course, they're a better play, not salary considered, just raw points, but it's not that extreme. But it's certainly very clear. Let's get a look at the prop projections here and kind of see if we can find any interesting anomalies or anything like that. So, yeah, Barkley comes in with a 16-5, going up against a pretty weak Commanders defense. As a road favorite, we like our favored running backs. Josh Jacobs going up against what has been a pretty acceptable, not special, but acceptable Bears rush defense. Nothing that I'm scared of, though. But, he's a road slight underdog. Maybe not as good of a situation.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be real about Barkley. Like DeAndre Swift is having a much better season than Saquon Barkley is overall. Barkley's been really bad, and we've kind of been at this whole thing throughout the season of, okay, well, he's got a good matchup again, and then he keeps flopping. So don't get me wrong, Barkley is a solid play. He's got the highest ceiling of any running back on the slate, but how many times has he let us down before in these spots this season?
Yeah, it's just a letdown after letdown after letdown for Barkley. But again, he's in a good spot, and he's not even priced. He's priced. So I would note this. Barkley's cheaper than Josh Jacobs, but he's projecting almost 3 points higher.
Yes.
That's not ignorable. That's not something we want to ignore. That is real.
Agreed.
That is serious. You don't like it, bet unders. It's available for you. You're welcome to bet unders. Those are on the sports books right now. So if we're aggressively disagreeing with that, okay, let's put our money where our mouth is.
Oh, definitely not disagreeing with it. Definitely not disagreeing with the fact that it's a better play. I'm just saying He's let us down time and time again.
100%. It's been that kind of a year for Barkley. Like it's the constant stream of letdowns. And you're right. DeAndre Swift is actually is averaging just about the same fantasy points per game as Barkley. And by having a better season, you mean for a much cheaper price across DFS every single time. And probably on a per carry basis because he's now splitting.
I have to say that's in a split backfield. So
yeah,
but yeah, no doubt about it. Barkley on a 2-gamer, understandably 80% owned.
Yeah, and now Josh Jacobs, same idea. Listen, this guy's been good. He's been averaging, good. He's been good. Last week he was good in a tough matchup at Denver. The same matchup a couple weeks ago, puts up a 17, pretty okay. I don't see anything changing there. Any weather conditions in Chicago to worry about?
Nope. It's sunny. Perfect football chill in the air. It's going to be beautiful for football.
Yeah. Let's get these guys on screen. Yeah, there we go. So the alternative guys, so we're dealing with Swift and Monangai effectively splitting touches. Swift a little bit more expensive, but hey, he's a home favored running back. That's cool. Catches a pass or two every once in a while. Monangai, not so much with the targets and the receptions, but maybe a smidge more. Would you say a smidge more touchdown equity overall compared to Swift? A little more likely to get one.
I wouldn't even say that, but he's extremely cheap. People have asked in the chat, just to address this really fast. You absolutely can play both Bears running backs on this slate. 100%.
Oh yeah, it'll be an interesting. It'll be a very interesting, unique approach to the slate. You want to do unique things. It's only 2 games. You have to get unique on a 2-game slate. You're not going to win.
We've seen multiple weeks where both the Bears running backs would have been optimal on the main slate. So this is a team that runs the football, and they're going to unapologetically run the football. And, as long as Ben Johnson is in control, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. Let's talk just the 4-pack of quarterbacks for a second. We're running lineups here. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is super chalk, but Jalen Hurts has not been like that much better than Caleb Love or anybody. He's been a low-scoring or a mediocre scoring quarterback for a lot of games this year. Got a 5 in there. 22, no big deal. 18, no big deal. 14, 13. Oh, makes the 30 in against Dallas. We ignore that. That was Dallas. Right? Against the Giants. You can't count that. A lot of mediocre games. Some good games, but usually the good games from Hurts come when the opposing team is putting pressure on them.
The breakout game, the ceiling games.
You're talking about, the right? 30-plus pointer, that's not going to happen when they can sit back, relax, and hand it off. This is not an aggressive offense that's trying to score as many points. This isn't the Lions. They get ahead. They want to play defense. They want to run the football. They want to kill the clock and move on to the next week.
And last week's a perfect example, just to prove your point. Look at Jalen Hurts. He attempted only 15 passes. They won like 31-0, I think.
31-0. He only
attempted 15 passes.
Yeah. They're not even going to throw it. If they don't have to, they're not going to throw it. So that's something to keep in mind here. As bad as the Eagles, as the Commanders' defense is, there are absolute paths on the slate that what I want to get across is, to my own head, to your head, and to whoever's watching, is there are definite paths on the slate where Jalen Hurts isn't the best play.
Oh, yeah.
And if he's going to be 50% owned, it's probably not a very good play at all in general. Anytime you get a 50% owned guy, it's going to be super hard to get unique with that.
The only problem is, and we'll see this as we go on, there are no pay-up studs. That's kind of what makes Jalen Hurts a little bit harder to fade.
Yeah,
there's just no pay-up studs anywhere.
We'll take a look at that. You know what? I'll start to plug a lineup in here just to kind of see what salaries do if you put in these chalk pieces all over the place. Here it is. Okay. So, yeah, A.J. Brown there. You put your tight end in, whatever, 4,700. You almost can't spend the salary. That's the problem.
It's crazy.
Yeah, all right, I'll put in McLaurin or whatever. But again, we'll talk about some of these matchups. But, you can kind of do not quite whatever you want, but pretty much to whatever you want. This is why those ownerships are so crazy.
And will probably be even crazier. I think he'll push 60, 65% ownership.
You think so? Yeah, I think that's super fadeable. Yeah.
And just to be clear, fadeable, you mean underweight, correct?
Yeah,
you're not going no Hurts.
I'm not gonna not play, but like if I'm ballsy and I only play 25% Hurts, that's not that crazy. I'd rather get leverage on Caleb and Love.
Agreed.
Than trying to leverage Hurts. He's going to be too high owned, and again, he's not somebody that always comes through or even consistently comes through. He's very much an inconsistent scorer when it comes to like putting up over 25, which is what you need generally in order to win something like this. This feels like a slate where money will be left on the table. But let's continue to go through position by position. So, BobbyWow, if it's Jalen Hurts, fine, whatever. Mariota on the other side of that game doesn't project that great, but Mariota does run a little bit, and he certainly has a little bit of upside. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not my second favorite. I think, he's clearly the least good of these guys. Because
he can run, he's a little intriguing, but all these quarterbacks can run, right? So
yeah,
to me, I have the least interest in Mariota. Mop up garbage time is a possibility, which you can't really fade him. So I'm probably just going to match the field on him at this point. But I want to be under Hurts so I can be over on Love and Williams, like you said.
Yeah. Now, which one is your preferred? It looks like Love will be a little higher owned than Caleb. I'm not sure that I don't know. Which one do you prefer between those two?
Yeah, I think Micah Parsons being out is a big deal for the pass rush. That's a massive deal. So to me,
Caleb.
I don't know. I think Caleb has a little bit of a higher ceiling, I think. But, Love's floor is also high. So there's not a massive differentiator between the two for me. Obviously, I'm a big Bears fan. But I do think Parsons out gives a slight edge to Caleb if I had to take a pick.
Yeah, definitely kind of agree. Caleb, I want to see a little more passing, and I'm a little concerned about the lack of receiving weapons for Caleb.
And that is the big knock. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been very heavy on just like effectively for the last few weeks, it's just been like run the ball, pound the rock with Swift and Monungai. And by the way, if that's what they're going to do, we probably should get on Swift and Monungai. Don't be scared of it.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't. It's not like, Caleb's attempting 15 passes, right? He's still getting his 30. Last week was a little bit less, but 30, 35 pass attempts is right where he's been. And that's just fine for him. He can, it's not like he's attempting a minuscule number of passes. Plus, he runs the ball too. So it's more so the wide receivers. You're going from Roma Dunze and Luther Burden, who are, young upcoming studs, to Olamide and Devin Duvernay. So yeah, that's a downgrade.
But we do get $3,500 Olamide to open up any affordability if you felt like you need it, or to just be different and weird and leave lots of salary on the table, which, guys, I'm going to tell you right now is my prediction for this slate is the nut lineup is going to be somewhere in the 48K range. Like, it's not going to even sniff.
I wish there was a hide salary button on the DS for this slate.
Well, I mean, you could just force it lower and just say, you know what, screw it. A fun way to operate the optimizer is literally to limit the total salary cap, like 49K, and just say, you know what, anything that spends the full 50 or anywhere near it, that's how I'm going to get unique. I'm not even going to deal with ownership caps. None of that. I'm just going to force this. And I know it's going to look a little ugly. It takes a lot of balls to do it.
But what I'm saying is, I guarantee you it'll be a low salary. That I'm not worried about forcing it low. I just don't want it. I don't like seeing it. I want to cover it up because it makes me want to tinker it.
Yeah, you want to change it, right? Yeah, it's super unlikely that you spend the full cap and that works. So jumping over to wide receiver, I mean, it's the same deal, guys. There's no world in which I'm trying to go over the field on AJ Brown, who we're projecting at 70%.
Yeah.
There's no world of that.
No world.
The guy is extremely inconsistent. He's been hot and great. Thank you very much for being hot the last few weeks, but he's an inconsistent guy. 13, 12, 10. They needed him. If they don't need him, they're not going to use him. We saw it last week. 2 targets, got lucky. But I mean, this is a guy who has monster games in the recent history, and that's what's driving that ownership spike up. But he's not consistent enough to trust. He's certainly not like Puka. Puka yesterday on the Showdown Breakdown, what did we say? I said I'm very comfortable with Puka in every single lineup that I'm making. He's either going to be my captain or he'll be in my flex.
We said cram him and JSN in every lineup.
Yeah. And man, JSN came through late. I was upset about it though. I'm playing against JSN in so many playoff games. I was like, fuck him. 7 points. I'm happy. That damn overtime. With that being said though, yeah. AJ Brown's not. I would not have more than 50% exposure to this guy. And probably nothing on the non-Hurts lineups.
Part of why he's so highly owned is because people want to spend the salary. That's a big reason why he's up 75, 80% owned.
For my NASCAR people, this is Daytona, and everybody wants to pay for Chase Elliott. Sometimes you got to fade that shit and play Olamide starting in the back instead. Like, imagine making the choice. You have a choice to go with AJ Brown or Olamide Zacchaeus, and you click on Olamide, even though you don't have to. Who's going to do that? No one.
Well, the problem is, you're at that point, you're also making a choice of Olamide over everybody between him and AJ, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the one thing I'll say before we're getting a lot of fade of the Washington game, and understandably, the Commanders are not the Raiders. Okay, they are a scrappy team. Mariota's a scrappy quarterback. It would not shock me if this game was somewhat competitive. So I would be careful about fading the game as a whole, just because we've seen this matchup kind of play out competitive before, and it wouldn't shock me if Mariota keeps things interesting. Still, I'm not super interested. I just want to make sure. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, this game absolutely could wind up being competitive. Mariota's fine. He's a perfectly acceptable guy to lead the team, but he's not like good. That being said, like every once in a while, the Eagles come out a little bit flat. So you never kind of know. I don't think you want to. What I do know here, I feel more confident that the Bears-Lions game is going to be harder fought. It's closer. I don't see one team necessarily running away with that one. I certainly see the possibility for Eagles blowout against the Commanders, just because Eagles defense, when they're on point, they stop a team like the Commanders. Commanders are not very dynamic, but sometimes they come out a little flat. And when they do, you get the big game from Terry McLaurin, or crazily, it was Debo last week, but you can get the big game from these guys. But I think that's the least. That game projects for me less competitive. It's slower. By the way, people forget Mariota plays slow. Every play, milking the clock. They're just trying to slow it down and be alive, be within 3 at the end of the game and trying to win it that way. That's how the Commanders are trying to win. And by the way, they're not winning, so it's not working.
And the Eagles aren't afraid to play slow either. I think they would welcome that.
That's what I'm saying. This could be like you blink your eyes and we're at halftime and it's like 10-3 and you're like, wow, this game's a stinker, right? And you're upset about all of it. And a 10-3 game where you have 70% owned AJ Brown and 50% owned Devontae Smith. These guys need to be, for mass multi-entering this, we need to be under the field on that. My back testing, by the way, BobbyWow has shown that it is never a good idea on a 2-game slate under any circumstance to be over 50% on any player. As many of these as I back tested, there's never been a situation where that was the correct move. Even when it's an obvious stud and they hit, it doesn't matter. You kind of get there anyway.
Yep.
So AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, the 2 highest owned alongside their quarterback. We've got Terry McLaurin coming in. DJ Moore getting a lot of interest, of course, with the other guys hurt. Watson, Debo in this order, and then you have like the low owned guys. So let's talk a little bit about the low owned wide receiver group here. Jaden Reed.
Yeah, I think I wish his ownership was a little lower because I wrote him up before we started the podcast. He's a really interesting piece to me. He's a guy that I think he's the perfect type of player to kind of beat this Bears scheme, which is a very bend, don't break style of defense. We saw Christian Watson exploit them too, by the way, a couple weeks ago. He smashed. I think Jaden Reed's another guy, though, that, if he's had a couple games under his belt now since coming back, he's a really intriguing pivot to me off of that higher ownership Watson. So I think Reed's a really interesting tournament option here.
Definitely. I love Olamide at 3,500 for value. Again, not that we need that much value, but there he is, and it's available, and he's a starting WR2, and he's definitely a guy that they've thrown to before, and he's put up a 20 this year. That's fine. 3,500, he hits 13%. Those are the kind of way. That's how you have to try to attack a slate like this. Give me the 13% owned guy.
He's the best value on the slate to me.
Yeah,
Olamide.
easily. And by the way, yeah, if I sort, he certainly pops up. He's right up there. The other name, though, I want to talk about, Christian Watson, man, this guy has an injury waiting to happen.
I thought for sure he'd be out for the season last week. He went out. He went to the hospital.
Went to the hospital, avoided the damage. Seems to be okay. But, man, if you're playing him, this guy's going to be 40% owned. You load up on this guy. Man, you are asking to hold your breath every time he goes up for a ball and comes down on that shoulder. Dangerous. Extreme in-game injury risk.
A chalky Watson is a very scary place to be.
That being said, he's clearly, he's the best guy. When he's healthy, he's the best guy on that offense as far as the pass catcher goes. He's the best guy. Reed is good. Watson is the best guy of them. But we're getting ownership, high injury risk. I like what Terry McLaurin's doing with Mariota in there. Debo, I think these guys are fine. I don't want to be over the field, but they're fine. Is there anybody else, though? Like, who do you think could break the slate open in the third price range? We got Romeo Doubs there. I don't love that. Let's see what Romeo Doubs did. They still giving him all the snaps? Yeah. Doubs is still out there for most of the snaps. And it looks like Matthew Gold. Matthew Gold, it's gross. There's too many of these guys.
It's Olamide. It is Olamide. He's far and away the best value option here because, the other piece is you can't really go cheaper, right? $3K, there's a $500 difference. What are you saving that $500 for?
It's also not helping you at all. I mean, you don't need the savings, right? We don't have an issue. But yeah, Dontavian Wicks was the star of one of the previous 3-game slates. Let's not forget about him.
Yeah, he's certainly in play. He's not cheaper than Olamide, and he's projecting significantly worse. But it's tougher for me with Wicks with a full healthy wide receiver core for the Packers.
Playable turd. Yeah, it's not that great. It's not that great, but
the pricing stinks.
I do like Reed, Paul. I think I agree with that the most. I think Reed has the sneakiest of the upsides here.
He'll be the forgotten man too. I would not be shocked to see his ownership a little bit lower than that.
Yeah, he's a little bit kind of priced up, a little beyond what the projection kind of justifies. So I like it. I'm into this. And again, will I mix a couple of points worth of Treylon Burks and these kind of guys in there? Yeah. If I'm making 150, if I'm making 300, yes. But that's not something.
Duvernay for me is a 5 to 10% or an MME. Get a little leverage on him.
That's a lot. That's too much.
Yeah, it's a lot. But who else? You're not getting leverage on Chris Moore or Darius Cooper here, right? That's just not that many options.
No, yeah, I don't want those guys. I don't want that leverage. I don't want that smoke. All right. Let's take a look at this tight end group here. Loveland, Goddard, massive ownership, leverage available on Cole Kmet and Luke Musgrave. And then maybe Bates and Sanat as well, like very leverageable. These type of slates normally and very frequently produce double tight end winners. This one today, I would not be as aggressive with that, but it's certainly in play.
Yeah, and it's only because DK's pricing stinks. Like there's still double tight end is still the best true value, I think, here. The problem is raw scoring is going to come into play over the points per dollar value, I think.
That's right.
If that makes sense.
That kind of puts the Luke Musgraves and the Sanats and the John Bates in on the back burner. None of them seem like, basically you need guys that can get you 20. And who can get you 20 from this group? Loveland,
20.
Goddard, maybe Komet. Right?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I think you need guys that can get you 14 or 15 here.
All right, I'll take a 15 as well. I think anybody can get a 14 or a 15. Well, maybe not Grant Calcaterra, but the rest of them.
You don't actually think. Okay.
Which one?
Fitzpatrick. Really, any of these. When was the last time John Fitzpatrick or Luke Musgrave scored you 15?
No, who the hell? I wasn't talking about Fitzpatrick.
Or Bates or Sanat.
Sanat can do it because he could do it just because they might just use him more than they ever have, and it could be a miracle. Like,
to me, he's the most intrigued. If you're looking to get silly at tight end, it's Sanat.
If you look at the Commanders' offense with Ertz in there, I watched Ertz put up 20-plus points many, many times. So if they slide somebody into that role, great. I would say the same about Musgrave, and if he somehow were to command the Tucker Kraft role, then it could happen. But the problem is, it's probably not going to happen. Like, those guys are them, and these guys are not.
That's the thing. I would love to go double tight end here. Like, if this were a main slate, I'd be smashing these top 4 guys. I would be smashing them. Double tight end. Give me the rotation. These top 4 all day long. But I think you're going to need the raw scoring.
I don't think that Goddard, for example, as good as he was last week, as great as he's been this year in terms of putting up big numbers on occasion, if you look at Goddard, again, this is not a consistent enough tight end.
Yeah, you're right.
To where you feel you must have him. Yeah, 25 last week. But mixed in with the 25s and the 15s are plenty of 4s and 3s. So it's either great, it's bad, 50-50 at best. He's going to be 45, 50% owned. The information is there. Yes, he could put up a 25, but there is real risk of a 4 or a 5. They just ignore him in those games when they don't need him. And I would not, I love him with Hurts, but in your non-Hurts lineups, like, do not get, I would be under the field on this guy.
Yeah.
You just gotta fade chalk.
That's a good call out.
And yeah, if I'm handcrafting one lineup, fine. You can do the obvious thing. We got to fade chalk. You got to fade chalk in a 2-game slate. Anything that's high owned, go lower on it.
Yeah, I'll be overweight on Komet and Musgrave in this group.
There we go. That's what I want to hear. Defense. Everybody's on the Eagles. Is there a defense you wouldn't play at all?
The Commanders. Just because they don't do anything well. I mean, yeah. But again, I guess I will have some exposure still.
They're at home.
There's too much defensive variance here with like a return touchdown, or just like a random fumble 6 or pick 6. Yeah. So yeah, you gotta have exposure to all of them. I do think both the Bears and Packers defenses will be under-owned. We're talking about less so with the Packers and Micah Parsons out, but these two teams get after the football. Takeaways are key on a slate like this. The Bears lead the league in takeaways. We know the Packers can take the football away, and the Packers, still, I think without Parsons, can get some pressure on Caleb. So definitely want some exposure there as well.
Is this an Emmanuel Wilson recommendation in the flex? That'd be crazy. Now, I will say this. I was just reading before that Josh Jacobs had not actually practiced yet this week.
It's a perpetual Q tag. He's going to play. He's going to be just fine. We went through the song and dance last week, remember? And the week before against the Bears.
I know.
He's going to play. And guess what? Emmanuel Wilson isn't doing anything because Chris Brooks is back. Chris Brooks, I think, has outproduced Emmanuel Wilson last week.
What a gross situation if that were to happen. But the Packers will take the decision on Jacob's status for Saturday up until game time. It's an 8:20 start.
God, he's gonna. I would bet my life on it.
If he doesn't, though,
please,
that would be nuts. Thank goodness for late swaps.
Coda Wilson last week. What did he do?
Well, let's see. Hang on. Let's look at it.
Compare him with Chris Brooks.
Wilson 19% snap count. Chris Brooks 25. So Chris Brooks is the guy, not Manny Wilson.
Same rush percentage, and then Brooks was the only one with targets between the two.
Horrible. Actually, I do want Jacobs to play now because I don't want to have to make a decision on that. It'd be gross.
If Jacobs is out, Manny makes sense. But if Jacobs is in, I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, Ray Zanny says Dotson and Cole Kmet for the potential turds.
There you go, Dotson. That's a name. That's a name.
Gotta mix some of that in. Sometimes it's two turds.
What if he catches the 90-yard bomb?
Yeah,
Dotson.
There was a game this year where Dotson became like focal.
Once a year, there's one game a year where Dotson catches a big pass.
Yeah, I thought there was one.
Looks like back in week 8. Week 8.
He got some targets, but didn't do anything.
Down a week 8. Week 8, he got a touchdown, I think. 11 points.
But it's all really gross.
It's 11 points, though. I mean, that probably gets there at min price. I don't know.
But not definitely. That's what's
not
funny
definitely
about
on this slate. Yeah.
I mean, I could see Olamide outscoring that, like just doing his normal thing, catching 5 passes, 68 yards, something like that. And yeah, got a 13. All good.
Yeah, especially on DraftKings. Yeah, Olamide is going to get some targets. That's for sure.
Olamide right now stands out to me for his ownership as the best ownership leverage safety play on the slate.
If his ownership stays that low,
yeah,
I mean, there's no way though, right?
It will. It's too easy. This is not by accident. The reason these ownerships are how they are.
So 13%.
I'm going to show you something.
I know. I get it, salary. I get it. But man,
no, I'm just going to run 100 line. As you can see, like the reason this stuff comes up is when you run 100, you end up with like 100%. AJ Brown,
or AJ Brown, yeah.
Yeah, like these guys, the 2 running backs that are good. Look at this. Yeah, 80% AJ Brown, 98% Barkley. Actually, that's really interesting. Swift ahead of Josh Jacobs. I like that when using the props. That tells you a little something, or it doesn't. But then look at this. Brown and 60%. This is just a raw run of this tool. And you can see here, you're only getting 18% Olamide. You're not getting a lot of that. And I actually have this set. Wait a minute, I forgot. I have this set to 49K on the cap if I erased it.
It's going to be even less.
Chalkier.
Yeah,
that's why I did that. But Loveland and Dallas Goedert, you see here, it's going to play them in every single lineup.
Okay, wow.
Defense, 57%. I mean, these numbers are, if you just ran this raw, that's like what you're getting. So there we go. You want to talk a little FanDuel?
Let's do it.
All right. This is like an unusual pivot for tournament tactics where we'll take a look at FanDuel as well. But let's see if FanDuel has any sort of different dynamic going on. All right. So at the very least here, I think salaries are probably, wait a minute, 20. No, these numbers aren't for the 2 game. Yeah. No, that's not a 2 game number. On the quarterback. I'm not sure what that is, but Barkley, Jacobs, guys, Swift, this 50%. A little more leveled out on FanDuel, but I'm not actually confident in these numbers at all.
Yeah, no, neither am I.
Yeah, I'm not confident in those ownerships, so I think the ownerships are not proper for FanDuel. But actually, the better way to figure it out on FanDuel is let's give it a run. Kind of like the thing we just did on DraftKings. Give it a run. This is how you kind of get a sense of these things. McNuckles, I like McNuckles on DraftKings. I think that's a little bit of where we're going to get unique. But in a second, I'm going to show everybody how to set up the Dom station to attack this 2 games.
You don't even have to though. Like again, Olamide's ownership and even Manungai's ownership. Manungai, who's $500 more than McNuckles.
Yeah, you could play him. Manungai and Swift, both of them together, get different, get weird, no doubt.
Komet's playing, Ray. Komet is 100% in.
Yeah, Komet's definitely playing, and you see, the projections love Loveland because of the other players being out.
But they should, as they should.
All Eagles defense here. DJ Moore. So FanDuel defaults more to
There's
DJ
Olamide. There's our man.
Yeah, FanDuel is going to try to pluck these turds. So effectively what I'm seeing here is on FanDuel, there isn't the ease. The DraftKings made it so easy to make a lineup, it's actually negative. FanDuel did not do that. So you can have a little bit of thought going into your line. Like, yeah, 89, 84 versus 64, 62. I mean, this is a massive difference. Whereas like Jacobs and Barkley and Swift are much closer together on DraftKings.
Manon guy is priced above Swift. What are we doing here?
That's wild. For 2 points lower projection. But FanDuel is usually good like that. Sometimes you got to believe. Believe FanDuel. Don't question FanDuel.
I don't know. I'm questioning FanDuel.
You should not question. FanDuel's better, but yeah, that is a weird one. Yeah, AJ Brown. Why isn't everybody loading up at 8,800? Now you have to think twice about AJ Brown, right? He's not been a 9K wide receiver for most of the year. 7K for McLaurin, and I would imagine, oh wow, Debo expensive too. But Christian Watson, a bargain. Jaden Reed, a massive bargain. You're gonna get a lot more of those guys.
Yep.
Tight end group, it's all Loveland, a little bit of Goddard, and then whoever else. JPAB says fade Brown. Boost Olamide on DK? Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Remember, so I'm on DraftKings, you have to be creative with how you're going to build your lineup. I'm telling you right now, if you go in here and you build the most obvious lineup, which I will show you right now, right? Like obvious, Jacobs, Barkley, Brown high owned, this, 4,800 last spot. You got to get DJ Moore in there, switch up the defense for some other shit, and bam. Chalk lineup.
I've never been more confident that you'll be shocked at how low the salary is for the winning lineup on Saturday. That's all I'll say.
But you see here, if you just want to kind of go generic, I might even go Smith over McLaurin because he's higher on, and that's your chalk lineup. Fine. I don't think it's a good lineup. I think you'd be crazy. So one of the things I'm going to do is make sure to have, because as I see, this one will be like this will be the lowest hanging fruit style of lineup for the Dom station to make. I think you need to put in, first of all, limits on how many players from Philly can even be in a lineup.
I was going to mention that, as that's the first rule I'm making, is at a minimum, no more than 2 of Smith, Brown, and Goddard at a minimum.
At most 2 of those guys, even with Jalen Hurts in there.
Yes, agreed.
Because this thing's going to try to jam 3 of them. And if you put a sim boost on it, it's going to sort of pluck in. They'll find a 4th one to get in there too, even though there isn't anybody else. All of a sudden, it's going to be like, John Dotson's in here? What the fuck? How'd that happen? How'd he get in there? So we're going to have to limit how many players from, because you can see here, this is the chalk, and it's Hurts, Brown, Smith, Goddard,
and Barkley.
It's too many. There's no way. Wait. This is from Braveheart. You ready for this? The Eagles are too many.
Flawless.
Thank you.
Flawless.
That's the Irish guy from Braveheart.
I need that lives in me. I need that.
We need to have we need what was that guy's name?
Song lives in me.
Kanata.
Oh yeah.
No, but Kanata Mumfield.
Kanata Matata.
Yeah, Kanata Matata. He lives in me.
Yes. It gets the people going.
You know, you watch The Lion King with your kids over Christmas. You have actually that movie's actually a little too disturbing for my kids.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not necessarily the Christmas cheer.
It's like isn't it a little disturbing? I remember that when my daughters watched the first time, they were like, did the daddy? And I was like, ooh, fast forward. I want to say it. All right, let's go over how to set up the optimizer to attack a slate like this. And just a couple of hints for this. If you're using DFS Army's Domination Station, and for those of you asking, well, single entry, let me get into single entry. I would definitely try to be different by using either Caleb or Jordan Love. That's literally, if I'm making a handcraft, I'm not going to do a Hurts one. It's more fun to build it around the other game. That's how I'm going to do it. What do you think?
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Cash hurts. Single entry, love and Caleb.
I mean, I don't want to show a full lineup, so I'm not going to, but the cash approach is pretty much like something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Maybe
the cash approach is trying to spend all the salary. That's really what the cash
I wouldn't do exactly that. I think this is even too chalky for cash, but like that's kind of what people are going to do. Find one or two swaps to make it a little bit different. Like Hurts, Brown, Smith, and Goddard. It's too many of the same guys. You got to do something different in there, but switch it up. But that's kind of how cash should go.
Yeah. Yep.
Where were we? Okay. But to set up the optimizer, a couple little details for 2-game slates. Number one, this setting right here, players versus defense, you never want to leave that at 0 because there's only 4 teams playing. And if that's set at 0, whatever defense the optimizer chooses is not going to allow players on the opposing team. They're not negatively impacted by defense. So I usually set this to 2 or 3. I'm not going to let the defense selected eliminate a whole pile of players from availability. Definitely set up a stack QB, and the standard stack QB with one wide receiver, tight end. I do think game stack boost is in play as well, right? There's a chance in a 2-game slate. There's a reasonable chance that like one of the games blows up and the other one doesn't, and then you want to kind of build little games. So I'm gonna set up a sim boost, and it's gonna be different from what I normally do, but a little bit different. But we're gonna go about like same team 10%. I'm looking at the running back group. I'm going to decrease RB from the quarterback's team by 5%. Now, BobbyWow, the reason I'm doing that, it's not. Is it over aggressive or not? You don't think I should do it?
It's not. I mean, 5% is nothing, so it's not over aggressive, but it's just.
I'm discouraging it. Here's my thought. Barkley touchdowns almost never help Hurts. Swift and Monungai touchdowns, probably not super helpful for Caleb.
Yep.
And I would say Josh Jacobs, rarely helpful for Love. So none of these quarterbacks have a particularly positive correlation with their running back. So that's why I'm using that. I don't see a single Jahmyr Gibbs here that could pop alongside Stafford, Goff kind of thing.
It's true, but also a two-gamer kind of counteracts.
Well, that's why I'm not disallowing it. That's why I'm not disallowing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, if you want to get a little more intense with it, yeah, we could sim boost if QB, then decrease opposing defense by some percentage as well to kind of try to avoid that. So you would, this will muddy up this would take a long time to run at some point.
I would just rather. I'm not going to play my QB against the opposing defense. I would just eliminate that up top and say between 0 and 1 of QB, or no, if QB is in lineup, then exactly 0 of.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at a 15%, 15% projection decrease, which is just as good, or it'll still allow it without being too crazy. And then we want to increase projection opposing team RB WRTE by. We want to increase opposing team, let's say 6%, just a little.
You're getting so cutesy. I love it.
Yeah, no, I don't go crazy. If you get too crazy, it just creates like literal full stacks that are insane. And actually, these are not written in stone. For every slate, I have to go and run lineups and look, and then I'm like, all right, this is getting too intense, or we might adjust the simulation boosts or reductions in this. But the reason I'm showing this on screen, everybody watching, is this type of slate, a 2-gamer, the most fun way to attack it is mass multi-entry. Is running 150 or 300 lineups. That's where we're plucking turds. That's where Olamide. That's where if you play some freaking Jahan Dotson and it works and you take down the tourney, or you go, hey, I'm going to be crazy and play Monungai and Swift together in the same lineup, or I'll play some Jeremy McNuckles. No one who's handcrafting is normally going to click on those guys. This is just a different and fun way to attack a slate like this. That's how I prefer to do the 2 games. I'm trying to take down the nuts score, the actual perfect lineup. So that's the fun of this. So from here, we can consider a couple of other things. I did cap the salary cap, or we can cap the salary cap a little bit.
I wouldn't even worry about that.
It's cappable. The other thing is we can look at flex positions. Again, I don't like to mess with this on a 2 game, but if I started getting like 100% tight end in a flex, I'd probably cap it at like, this is randomly FanDuel that I have open. So I would cap it more aggressively on FanDuel than DraftKings. DraftKings I like a little bit.
Yeah, and then just make sure up top you've got your tournament mode plugged and your props projection over the projection.
Yeah.
Instead of optimal mode and regular projection. And I usually go 2 uniques, but on a 2 gamer, I don't know what your preference is.
2 gamer, 2 uniques for me, tournament mode, and then here's the big one.
And props projection too.
Oh, definitely props projection, but the big one is you've got to limit pretty much the whole player pool so that you don't get more than 50% of anyone. That's how I do it. Even though the 2 running backs from the primary game look so much better than all the other ones, does not matter. Limit the whole thing. Don't allow more than 50% of anything. Listen, I wish I could take more credit for like calling out Puka as the captain. Like, no shock there, but thank you, Baby Yoda, for that. We actually had my boy Irish Jeebs take down a showdown last night with a Puka captain, and we had a couple of really beautiful screenshots, of course, as always, in the DFS Army Discord. So with these little rules in place, that's mostly it. Throw some randomization on there. Bam, let her rip. It's actually running pretty faster than I thought, considering how many rules I just slapped on this thing. I really thought it would slow it down. But again, this is the FanDuel side. So I'm going to show you let's take a look at the result at the end, and we'll look at like a couple of lineups, and then we'll call it a day for this one. Guys, we are coming back tonight, so we have a full day of DFS action scheduled here on DFS Army YouTube channel. 5 o'clock, main slate tournament tactics. Burns, Josiah, BobbyWow, and myself will be back looking at the main slate.
It's going to be so good.
Fun slate. This main slate, BobbyWow, got to get creative. It seems very obvious on a couple spots. There are some spots to get creative. I think it's going to be a really fun main.
Yes,
I do. It's a really fun one. Better than it's been. Look at this. FanDuel wants to give me 90% of DeAndre Swift. Still all this Jalen Hurts. And this is before I put caps on anything. You can see here. It wants to give me 90% Swift. That's wild. DJ Moore is the wide receiver that it wants to churn out a ton of exposure for. And then Colston, Loveland, and Goddard at tight end. So very obvious.
Yeah.
Very obvious stuff. I think we wrap it up there, BobbyWow. Saturday only slate.
I do too.
NFL.
Cannot stress it enough. Salary. Try not to look at the salary. Don't jam people in to fill the salary, please. It would not shock me if 45K on DraftKings wins it. In that ballpark. So please, that's the only, and I'm speaking to myself as much as anybody else.
Yeah, a lot of what I
get over the mental block.
I listen back to these shows so that I can speak to myself and tell me what I was saying on the show. Like literally do that, and so I can re-listen to you instead of like half focusing on this while I'm thinking about the show itself and getting this going. But yes, so our call is the winning lineup tomorrow leaves a lot of salary on the table. And when you're handcrafting, if you're a handcrafter of lineups, maybe think about that. Maybe when you have enough money to afford that last piece for the most expensive guy, purposefully pick someone else so that you're purposefully and aggressively leaving salary. John Marchese, FanDuel will not be like that.
Not as much, no.
Yeah, FanDuel is going to spend it. You can see here on FanDuel, you're spending the whole thing and you're not able to fit all the studs. So FanDuel, not so much, but that's more of a DraftKings thought, especially with Olamide, who's like a really good kind of DraftKings play. It's not that great of a FanDuel play. It's fine, but not as good. So that'd be much more of a DraftKings thing for me than FanDuel. Again, we got a monster main slate coming up. on Sunday as well. A lot of people have their fantasy football championships this week. Did you puka your opponents? Did you get puka'd? Did you get Stafforded already? That happens. A lot of people got Stafforded. I had Stafford in one of mine. Very excited. Very excited. In a dynasty league, I was like, pick him up for a second rounder when Jaden Daniels got hurt.
That's huge.
Yeah, I think hopefully I'll make it past round 2 with that guy. So maybe don't play any of the turds. The one thing I don't think is going to show up is a turd running back from Washington. For some reason, I don't like that. But yeah, global max 50%. There you go. I've back tested these, especially on DraftKings, and what I'm saying when I say I back tested it and there's almost never a time to go over 50%. What I mean is when there's a chalk piece that's going to be 70% owned, and I limit them like to 50%, and then I lock them for 100% in back test mode, very frequently the top score that I get does not change. And so that was my discovery that, you know what? Winning the 2-game slate is much more about being right about Duvernay and having 15% of that than it is going over or under on chalk. If you find the 10%, the 5% piece that smashes and you have 20% of that, that is the pathway to winning. The pathway to winning is not, well, everybody's playing 80% AJ Brown, I'm going to go 100% and be smart about it.
Right.
You're not being smart about that.
Yeah.
You could be right. You're still going to lose. That's the problem. Be right about it. You're still not doing anything. So key is heavier duty. John, playoff best ball show. I know it's been an insane week. I have just not gotten around to it. I know Fling is planning something strategy wise, but we'll push that to next week. You should not be drafting best ball teams for the playoffs yet. Anyway, we'll get one more
for the
week.
best.
Yeah, it's for the best. We need another week of knowledge of who's going to play. I need to know who has the bye week. Without the bye week knowledge, you will not win. So we have to be able to confidently predict which team will get the bye. That's the main thing. I did talk about strategy a little bit. We got to be able to predict who gets the bye. You have to know, because you can't get past round 1 if you.
We won't know that until probably the end of the season.
Yeah, there's a massive strategy to playoff best ball that you have to pay attention to. Dotson revenge game. Brandon Joy, if that's something that works for you as a reason, then it works for you. And John Marchand, I'm going to look into Robinhood on the arbitrage tool as well. I didn't know we didn't have it. We have the feed, I believe, or we should. So we should be able to get that going. All right. That being said, guys, good luck. We'll see you back here 5 p.m. tonight. Tournament tactics, main slate breakdown. For everybody else, DFS Army VIPs, subscribers, YouTube subscribers, Players Club will be the same as usual, Saturday at noon, and we will be focusing on the main slate Sunday. We'll be building lineups for that. When we finish that up, 2 o'clock, that's when we're all going to set up our lineups for tomorrow's 2-gamer. We've got a big day tomorrow. Be ready for it. Tell the wives, the kids, busy. Go do your Christmas shopping by yourself. Dad's got gambling to do.
Amen.
Daddy's doing gambling. Sorry, kids. Have fun. Just kidding. Don't ever do that. Don't take that advice. Don't ever do that. That was terrible. I have a family day on Monday, BobbyWow. We're going to the city. Restaurants. Other things that my wife planned that I don't know about. Stuff like that.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It is. Should we go see the tree in Rockefeller Center?
What does the bishop have to say about that?
Yeah, hold on. I was going to ask Smokey about it because he's actually got a better answer for that.
Hell no, fuck with your shit.
No, I'm not going there. I went there a couple of years ago. It is crowded and disgusting, and it's all horrible people from New York City and tourists. It's the worst. I don't want to be near any of them. I barely even leave my house at this point. Can't be around the peoples. All right. See you guys tonight, 5 p.m. Tournament tactics. Good luck on the 2-gamer. I'll see everybody tomorrow as well on Players Club here at noon. Good luck. Helmets up. Take care, everyone.